Hello, good morning children. Today we are going to study the part 2 of our 2 stories about flying. That is the Black Aeroplane. And it is written by Frederick Forsyth, who is a noted British author and best known for thrill writing. And in this story, he is also creating a thrill by showing us how a mysterious pilot in the black aeroplane guided the narrator to the safety and giving us a message that having faith in oneself is important to move forward in life. So let's get started. The moon was coming up in the east behind me, and the stars were shining in the clear sky above me. So moon was coming up means the night is going to fall, which means moon is coming up, and moon comes up after dusk, as you all know that. And he's saying that he's going in the west direction. And you know what is very, very important for flying? Yes, it is very, very important for flying that weather should be favorable. It shouldn't be cloudy. So narrator is saying that the stars are shining in the sky and there isn't any cloud. The sky is clear, seems perfect for flying. And I was happy to be alone high up above the sleeping countryside. So he was saying that he was very, very happy, all alone at great height, and all the countryside people had fallen asleep. So he felt the peace in being above the country, and narrator was flying his old Dakota aeroplane, and he was going from France to England in his hometown country. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. I looked at my watch, 1:30 in the morning. So, dear children, before I move on to explain this, I want to ask you, what would you do if you are living alone with your family? What would you do if you are going to meet them after a long period of time? Perhaps you start dreaming about the things you do with your family. And same here with the narrator also, as it was very starry and peaceful at that time. Narrator started dreaming about being on holiday with the family. Then all of a sudden he looked at the time. It was showing 1:30 in the morning. I should call the Paris control room, I thought, as I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane. I saw the lights of big city in front of me. So when the narrator saw the time, which was 1:30, also looked through the plane front window, he saw some lights. That means he could see the airport lit up below him. As a pilot, he knew that he was flying over Paris, so he thought to call the control room. At this point, why do the pilots call control room? Do you know? Do you have any idea about this? Actually, they did so to inform their air traffic control about their presence. So he also did the same way. He wanted to inform the ATC about his presence, and he also wanted to have the further instruction about the way to follow. So I switched on the radio and said, Paris Control, Dakota DS-088 here. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England. Over. So here I hope you know that pilots communicate through radio and they have their own special vocabulary. And one thing special I also felt like sharing here is that pilots tell all the letters. They do not say like DS. I mean, English alphabet letters are relayed over radio and are spoken in word form. For example, pilot is informing ATC about his aircraft number, and that is perhaps like 934N. So they would communicate like 939 for November. They do not use simple letters. They do so to do and avoid any confusions. So he is also trying to communicate with his control room. So in order to communicate, he switched on his radio, and he might have said like this aircraft number, like December Saturday 008. So in reply, the control room instructed him that I can hear you. You ought to turn 12° west now, DS 008 over. So he instructed him to turn to 12 degrees in the west. And when they end their conversation, they are required, they have to say the word over, which means that they are over and done with their conversation, and then the ATC can move forward with the other pilot who is trying to communicate with them. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank, and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. I'll be in time for breakfast, I thought, a good big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. So as soon as he got the direction, he checked up his map and the compass, and also switched to the last fuel tank. You know why he switched on? Because generally there are 2 fuel tanks in each airplane, and there are various options for flying, like plane to plane. So he saw the signal for low fuel on first tank, so put the plane on the last fuel tank and headed on in 12° west Paris. And he also thought about having a good breakfast with the family, and it was an easy flight because already the narrator has mentioned that there wasn't any cloud, the sky was clear, it was completely the stars were shining. So when the weather is favorable, the flight is very, very easy. It was not a difficult part to flying in such a clear weather. So he was saying that the flight was very, very easy. Now move on. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me. When I saw the clouds, storm clouds, they were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. So here narrator is telling that he had just been 150 kilometers away from Paris, and he had just he saw some dark clouds which seemed so huge to him, as if they are big mountains. So if there are clouds, which indicates that there are chances of storm, and which in turn indicates that it is not quite safe to travel ahead. I knew I could not fly up and over them, and I didn't have enough fuel to fly around them to north or to south. I ought to go back to Paris. I thought, but I wanted to get home. I wanted that breakfast. I'll take the risk. I thought. I flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. So he knew that he couldn't pass them, as it was nearly impossible to go through them. And on top of that, he didn't have, he mentioned that enough fuel means he had little amount of fuel in the last tank also. So in this situation, there were 2 thoughts which were flashing in his brain, one after another. First, he was thinking that it would be right to go back to the Paris, and other, he had a strong, inclination to be with the family and having English breakfast with them. So, which he had been, dreaming all day, that being with the family, having breakfast. So with all this in his heart, he took the risky decision and head on, and thought not to go back, and thus he had he headed on the plane right into the storm, right? Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. I looked at the compass. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round. It was dead. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. So as soon as, he entered the cloud, he was unable to see anything. There was no light. He couldn't see anything through the windows. All of a sudden, the Airplane also started acting up. He was shocked and surprised to see compass which was moving round, 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 and one by one, his all instruments, the plane instruments which were required to fly across, had also stopped working because of this bad weather. Now suppose if you were in such a situation, how would you feel? I'm sure you would agree with my answer. You would feel powerless, weak, you wouldn't give up. He also felt helpless, but he also didn't give up so easily, so he thought the radio might work. So he started calling out, Paris control, can you hear me? There was no answer. The radio was dead too. I had no radio, no compass, and I couldn't see where I was. I was lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another airplane. So he started calling out. He was not giving up. He thought I should, try the radio so that if anyhow I could, have contact with the control room, they would help me. So he said, Paris control, can you hear me? Unfortunately, he couldn't get through them also because of the bad weather, and it was clear by then that he had no instrument working to fly across smoothly. Fuel was also less. And at this situation, his heart grew very, very heavy. He thought he was lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds, quite near me, I saw another airplane. It had no lights, so that is why it is called the black aeroplane on its wing, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. I could see the pilot's face turned towards me. I was very glad to see another person. He lifted one hand and waved. Follow me, he was saying. Follow me. He knows that I'm lost. I thought he was trying to help me. So, when you are in such a situation, you also feel powerless, weak, and, at that moment, in the midst of nowhere, when he had given up, he felt a glimmer of hope to see another aeroplane which was flying beside him. It had no lights on its wing. So, dear children, when you look up in the sky, you can see some lights in the sky, not the aircraft. So, these are the flashing lights, and they serve to augment the airplane visibility at height. So the pilots turn them off when they operate in proximity of other aircrafts, so that the other could see, because the extra light create blindness for the other pilots. So that is why he turned off his light. It had no lights on its wings. Therefore he could see the other pilot face and felt relaxed. So he also, because of no light, he saw the other pilot face and he also felt relaxed when the other pilot also indicated him to follow. And he thought to himself that as if the other pilot knew that he had been lost and he was trying to help him. So this is the kind of situation he is in a situation where his all instruments are not working, and it's a kind of mystery. An aeroplane coming towards him and trying to help him and asking him, follow me. So this is the thrill part of the story. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota, so that it would be easier for me to follow him. I was very happy to go behind him, the strange aeroplane, like an obedient child. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now there was only enough fuel in old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 to 10 minutes more. So in order to make his flying easy, the other airplane started flying ahead of him, as all his plane instruments were dead, and he knew that anyhow he couldn't go through this stormy clouds all alone. So he started following him like an obedient child. Remember, when children are in tight sport, means in difficult situation, they also obey, because inside they know they can go their own way. So he was also doing the same way. He knew that he's in tight situation, he could not go through these stormy clouds all alone by himself. So he started following that strange aeroplane, which was called Black Aeroplane because it had no light, and the other pilot turned off its light because he wanted him to see and follow him. So after half an hour, when it was almost half an hour past, he was following the strange Black Aeroplane. He realized that his last fuel tank would also support only for 5 to 10 minutes, and this thought also scared him again. But then he started to go down and followed through the storm. Suddenly I came out of clouds and saw 2 long straight lines of lights in front of me. It was runway, and I thought I was safe. So he was a minute ago panicking about that my fuel was going to over, and another moment he realized that the Black Aeroplane had led him through the stormy clouds safely, because he could see the lights of runway. That means he is about to reach an airport, and he was saying that he was safe, means because nothing had happened to his plane and to him because of those stormy clouds which looked so huge and stormy, and he was panicking that how he could reach home and meet his family. So he was safe. He was very, very happy about it. I turned to look for my friend in the Black Aeroplane, but the sky was empty. There was nothing there. The Black Aeroplane was gone. I couldn't see it anywhere. So, as every human being on earth, when he takes or she takes help from someone, would like to thank the other person as a way of gratitude, so he also thought to do the same. So when he turned to do that, he was astonished. He could not see any plane. It was gone. And how it is possible for a plane to vanish in a minute? Where it could be, he was wondering. So I landed, and I was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. I went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and who the other pilot was. So when he landed, he straight headed on to the control room, and he didn't feel ashamed or sorry for leaving his plane. And now you must be thinking why a pilot should feel sorry for leaving the plane unattended. So dear student, when the plane lands, it's the duty of pilot to hand over to the next crew or any other licensed supervisor. So when he went into the control room, he was not feeling any sorry, because he had no other person to see to his plane. So he went directly into the control room. So he asked and requested to inquire about that plane, where the other pilot was and all that things. So I wanted to say thank you. She looked at me strangely and then laughed. Another plane? Up there in the storm? No other plane was flying tonight. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. So who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? Who was the pilot on the strange Black Aeroplane flying in the storm without lights? So when he went into the control room, he inquired about the other pilot, but the woman at the control room wondered and laughed at him. Another airplane? There wasn't any other plane, only his plane was showing up in the radar. She replied in that manner. When the woman assured him that there were no other airplanes because of that bad weather, he was only struggling to find out the answer, that who could be there, who was that pilot, who landed him safely. So there was some question which were unanswered. He was struggling to find out that who could have helped him. So this was the kind of mystery, that how one person without any fuel, without any kind of lights and compass not working, landed on the airport. So in the end, I would like to say something. Perhaps I am wrong too. In my point of view, it was Almighty God or supernatural power who held him through that that tight spot in difficult situation, because of his decision to fight back and not giving up. And famous saying also goes like this way: God help those who help themselves. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed reading with me. So please read the whole chapter, because this is going to be followed by the post reading and the question answers. Thank you very much. Bye bye.